Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome to your Sunday evening weekly setup. It's really, really good to see y'all here. You've got Jennifer Ogilvy in front of the camera and Maya Martin Glenn hanging out in the chat. And we are both really proud of you for carving out time to, hang out with your journal and hang out with the Sonder community. Make sure your chat is set to everyone because that's how we'll share and support one another and give suggestions and all the good things that help us connect with each other. I love that so many of us are enjoying a really nice day. It is about 79 degrees. I'm in Central Texas, and I said, what I am loving right now, this very moment, is that there's a warm breeze blowing, and my wind chimes are making all those beautiful little ding dongs. So I love that. Share in the chat. Let's start with some positivity. What are you loving? You might want to go write that on page 41, or if you're still kind of finishing up your February set, your February journal, and you're going to do your rosebud thorn reflection in February. Maybe you'll put it in there. But what are you loving? Share that in the chat and let's get some positivity at the front end of our time together. Is there anybody here for the first time? I always love the beginning of the month socials because so many folks wait to start their Silk and Sonder journey, and they join these socials to find out what they're all about. So, first time back in 3 years. Okay, Chanel, welcome home. We're glad that you are here. That's so great. So, if you're new, just drop a me in the chat. Let us give you a big welcome. If you come to these long enough and often enough, you're going to start recognizing familiar names. And of course, we've all fallen in love with each other. This is a really great supportive community. And while it's virtual, I think it's a community of value, and it is one of the top communities in my personal life. So I love that. All righty, so let's get going. Speaking of community, there are the guidelines that we share every single month or every single time that we are together. And we want to always point out number 7, Sonder Socials are a tool to help elevate your emotional health through the power of community. But you are responsible for your own emotions, well being, and decisions. So we always say, come as you are. If you need an extra little amount of love, and let us know. We want to support one another through that, but always take care of yourself. And if you're having an off day, that's okay. Give yourself permission, lean into we're all entitled to those days. And then, when you're ready to work on your journal or dig in a little deeper into the journal prompts, do it when you're ready. As a reminder, there are no expiration dates on these journals. So I was sharing with, I don't know, one of the socials I've done this weekend, like February, I go really hard and strong at the front end of the month, and I tend to kind of fall off the wagon as we move through the month. And last month, I was on vacation for the first week of February and completely lost my momentum. So I have a lot of blank spaces in my February journal, but it doesn't expire. So I can sit with that journal when I need to maybe have some alone time, some reset time, some time to just do some brain dumping through the magic of a journal prompt. It's going to be there for me. So, they never expire. It doesn't have a best by date on it. So just keep that in mind if you ever, and the blank, you've heard me say it, those empty spaces, blank pages, part of your story. I can pick up that February journal that's kind of empty and go, yeah, but I was on vacation and I had a great trip. And so that's part of my journey. New month. It's the month of change. And I love that we did alignment. And then we moved into the idea of looking at our beliefs. And now that we're solid, we're going to look at change. And somebody pointed out, oh, that was A, B, C. Is next month's theme a D word? Spoiler alert, it is not. But I thought that was really good noticing. I love this quote from Mother Teresa. I alone cannot change the world, but I can cast a stone across the waters to create many ripples. that butterfly effect, if you will. So I think that as we dig into the month, we're going to realize that there are very small, subtle things we can do to affect change, not only in our lives, but in our families, in our communities. And love, that we have like a coloring page that's a butterfly. Talk about a metamorphosis, like it's perfect, a symbol of change. And then thinking about that butterfly effect that you never know what kind of changes that you will affect into the world. So, alrighty. So tonight we're going to start with our change mind map, or this afternoon, depending on your time zone. We're going to be doing our rosebud thorn reflection over the last full week in February, and then we'll work on our weekly setup pages, which includes a lot of ideas from Sonder family that I'll be sharing. So you are invited to use your journal just as it's printed, but you are also, we want to give you permission, change up the things that you need to change so that it reflects what you need for the week that you have coming up ahead. So we have our mind map, which is that bonus journal prompt for coming to weekly setups. And this month's mind map, you'll want to create a space for 4 quadrants. And you may do this on your quote page. The last page is a great space. That's where I have my mind map on the last page. Perhaps you do sticky notes. Maybe you use the scratch pad from week to week to week, but this is a bonus prompt, so you won't find it in your journal. And we say, grab a stencil to make this easier. You could trace a cookie cutter, your driver's license. I keep a tuna fish can lid at my desk at home because sometimes I do circles. This month I'm trying something different. I'll show you in just a second. But we're going to, I love this. We're peeling back a new layer of our theme each week to see what's underneath. It made me think of that quote in Shrek, about the onions and peeling back those layers. And our first week is, how do you typically respond to change? Do you embrace it or resist it? Think of past changes and your feelings around them. What does this reveal about your feelings with change? And I laugh because I'll read I'm doing these kind of translucent post-it notes where I'm writing the question on top and then putting the answer below. And so I'm going to tell on myself because when I first started writing, here's what I went with. I believe I'm fairly open to change. And then I said, probably more so if I'm the original originator of the said changes. I value stability, reliability, and predictability, when I think about my core values. But I think I learned flexibility by being an educator and an administrator. You plan out your day and you never know what's going to happen. And I've always loved the quote, it's a Yiddish proverb, make plans and God laughs. I value my tenacity to bloom where I'm planted. So I'm sitting here feeling all proud that I'm pretty good at change. And when I did this, when I did this weekly setup yesterday, somebody said, it makes me crazy when they change the grocery store. And I was like, oh my gosh, maybe I'm not as flexible with how I respond to change because I still walk around my newly redone Aldi as lost as a goose. And I'm just grumbling like this grumpy old lady, like, why did they move everything? I can't find anything. So maybe I'm not quite as flexible as I like to think. And perhaps it really does go back to if the change is my idea, then I'm right there. So I'm going to put on a little bit of music while you reflect upon how you embrace changes that come in your life. I met with a girlfriend Friday. We hung out all day. And I was telling her, that our theme, she always wants to know what I'm doing. And I said, our theme is change. And she said, oh, that's a good one. And she said, change is hard. She said, tough change is hard and great change is hard. And I thought, you are so right. Like change is hard. We kind of like, that thing that we know just makes life so much easier. But one thing that we do know for certain is that change is inevitable. So, anyway, gonna leave this here while you start bouncing this idea around in your head, and feel free to share in the chat what comes up for you as you think about your responses to change and maybe some things that happened in the past and how you embrace this idea of change today. I think this community is really going to enjoy our mind map questions this month. I think Bailey is the one who wrote them. And so facilitators got the preview, and I think you're really going to like the journey that we're going to go on. Great start this month as you reflect on change. And, yeah, for sure, a control issue. And Lori, was it Lori? I've responded, Lori responded, as I've gotten older, I think change is harder. And it makes me think of so many of you who share about like caring for aging parents. And nope, not going to change. Don't need a plan. I'll make a plan when I need it, because change is hard. And there are probably aspects that get tougher and tougher as we get older. So, anyway, I think we are going to really enjoy doing this together. I love that we've got this journey ahead of us with our community. So, thank y'all for digging in to week one and kicking off this new theme of change. So, if you want to do last week's Rosebud Thorn reflection in your February journal and then close your journal, that will be on page 56, or you can turn to page 30 in your brand new March journal to do this reflection. Of course, our rosebud thorn, this is I always say my lesson in gratitude for the week. Those roses, what are you celebrating? You're happy about people that, are in your life, things that went well, things that are just like filling your cup. The buds are those things that you're looking forward to. Simple as brand new month, brand new journal, brand new week, brand new day. But maybe it's something that you're looking forward to in the next quarter or the next half year or even at the end of the year. Things you know about. I know we've got someone who might be moving to Montana, so that could be a bud. And then the thorns. What were the stumbling blocks? Who were the challenges? What were the challenges? I always say the challenges, if it's a person, that those are the really toughest thorns of all. Maybe you have some health issues that aren't going away. So consider that. For me, we have critters and varmints at this camp house that is our family camp house, and we are here to address that issue. That's where I am dialing in from tonight. They have shredded the underneath ductwork, so yay. Love that. And then my bud, of course, is my garden, but I have to be patient because just when we get ready in Texas, we get one last weird cold blast. So, but I'm making plans. I'll show you my setup and I'm planting seedlings and all that good stuff. And then my highlight was I had a really important business meeting for my PEO chapter this week, and it went really well. And I'm president this year and then this coming year. And so I just completed my first term. And so I'm just like, okay, 1 year down, one to go. So that was my highlight. So let me put on a little bit of music. Feel free to share in the chat what comes up for you, where you might need some more support. Let us all celebrate together. And then, let us hold space for that. No, Amanda, yes, scorpions. And I was actually telling Maya a story about a red wasp infestation that we've been dealing with this past year that I think it's starting to show up again. So, the critters and varmints, that's what happens out here. But still, I try to turn it, a silver lining is that we, had a beautiful afternoon with wind chimes. So let's work on this and get going with our setup. I really love and appreciate this rosebud thorn reflection. It is something that I am pretty consistent with. Some things don't always get done, but I do love taking that moment to pause each week and look at my week and kind of what it brought me. And I really do try to look at the thorn and figure out, a counter to how it's making me feel. I will tell you a hint though, is that one week I didn't have any thorns and I said that out loud and karma came the next week and we had like lots of stuff break and I wrecked my car and so now I always look for like what was a down a down part of the week. But and then some things can be all three, right? Like we were talking about, Maya's husband's surgery. I know they've been waiting for this, and so the but is, he's gotten it done, and there's healing and health in the future, and then the roses that finally he was able to get this done, and he's gonna get better. Janine shared, this Montana move could, it's like all three things at once. So sometimes one thing is everything. All righty. It looks like my screen froze for half a second. I hope we're back and we're okay. So let's turn to pages 32 and 33 for our setup. And I like to do show and tell every week and show you some ideas. It was weird. My screen went to the dark mode like it does, for nighttime, and that's when it stopped. I don't know. But okay, we're here. We're good. We've got some great things coming up this week. You will see this slide again later when we're kind of talking about the second half of our setup, but there's some really cool things coming up this week. This is Read Across America Week. My personal challenge to everyone is just to go to the library and check out a book and make sure that your county, city knows that libraries are important and we got to use them. So that's a challenge. But then also on the 3rd, it's voting day. So if you didn't do that, do that. And then the 8th is International Women's Day. And it's Daylight Savings Day. I hate to say that. We're going to have more daylight, but woo, it's coming. And y'all, I've got a really good slide on kind of prepping for daylight savings because this is the one that I think is a little harder because we lose that hour. So I've got some tips to make that a little more palatable. And if we start now, it'll be a little easier to transition next week. And then just the alliteration slide. I have this a lot because sometimes we need to make our days a little more magical by, throwing a fun descriptor in front of it, like Fantasy Friday and Thankful Thursday. So, again, you'll see this later in our slide presentation tonight, but I'll come back to this. So, I was really, really proud of myself to do show and tell of my pages that I actually got completely set up. And I wanted to show them to y'all because sometimes, they're halfway set up when, when I present and then I finish it. Or anyway, I was feeling very sassy. And then if you will notice, I knew that, we had that bonus week in the front end of March, but for some reason I turned 2 weeks forward. And so this is actually week 11. We are working on week 10 tonight. I'm not ahead of the game because these are things that have to happen this week. As far as like my weekly to-dos is for my garden love. And so that these are time frame things. So, but I'm keeping it on here because I want to remind y'all, I'm still going to use it when it's week 11. I'll go back, fill out week 10. Breaking up with perfection is what we're all about. My feeling words are I wanted to be attentive and accomplished. So, boy, I'm off, off to a good start on that one. And then instead of goals, I am trying to sink back into my rhythms and routines. Like I said, I started off on vacation last month and nothing much ever happened after that. So I've got my AM and PM routine locked in there for my goals this week. And I've made little mini trackers, and they don't get checked off unless I do all the things on that list each day. My habit and activity list, I have one chore from the list, which I've put in my meal plan, and I'm just going to kind of focus on that. I've blacked out the days because they don't have to happen on a certain day. They just need to happen. And I'm going to do two or more items on my little bingo that I've repurposed for my shopping list. And those are just some to-dos that should happen. And then one thing from my mind body health plan. And my mind body health plan has just a little menu of things for me to check off, to take care of. Some of them are easy little self-care things like doing my teeth strips. One thing is telling my husband what I appreciate about him instead of mentioning what maybe he didn't do. And make my mammogram appointment. And then I got a shout out to Nikki because yesterday, Nikki said, I call my mammogram appointment my sci-fi boudoir shoot. So that is now what I have to do my sci-fi boudoir shoot. So there's my page. And I said, I'm loving that I can laugh at myself because God dog it, there I am being attentive and accomplished, and I'm on the wrong week. Just letting you guys know, it happens to the best of us. We are going to start off. I want to remind you, go look at your intentions. What do you want for this month, and how can that show up in your setup this month? And you can see this is a repurposed to-do box where this person is going to hone in on their physical health, their money management, and fun. Those are their three spaces on their intention page. So this is a good way to go hold yourself accountable. If you set that page up and you don't look at it, maybe it shows up in your weekly setup. And also a shout out to what do you want to start, stop, and continue. Those could be those right there, those three things. What am I going to start and make a goal? What am I going to stop, make a goal? And what am I continuing? Make that a goal. Those could be your three goals for the week. All righty. We're going to look at how do you want to feel? So drop that in the chat. There's lots of ways to set this up. Words, stickers, sentences, giving each day a particular word if you know what your week is bringing you. um Whatever you need, drop that. I said healthy. I was attentive and accomplished and so far I failed immediately. Focus, lighter, brave, and worthy. These are great words. Hydrate. I want to feel hydrated. What a great goal, Carly. Are you going to use your water droplets when you track what you're drinking? On my bingo board that I shared with y'all, I have fill up my water bottle, or maybe, no, maybe that was on my habits. Fill up my water bottle and then drink my water bottle. And I did two separate habits so that because I'm good about filling it up and I'm bad about drinking it. All righty. So keep dropping in the chat how you're gonna, what you want to feel this week. And then we're gonna take that feeling into how we get our goals taken care of. Of course, when we do goals, we want to point you and remind you of the SMART goals. That's a way to make sure that your goals are very specific. So, like if I want to move my body, how do you get specific? And it can look like I will do yoga online for 20 minutes 3 times this week. That goes to move my body. So, very specific for those goals. Oh, rooted and radiant from Mayhaw's letter. I love that call out, Savannah. Here are some examples from y'all. And I wanted to point out the one in the middle. They're just doing personal growth goals. So maybe you change up the vibe of your goals for the week. And so they're looking at energy and finding moments to be able to create and then also to show gratitude. Which says I complete all the Silk and Sonder activities and show gratitude daily. So I love that. Some more, how it's set up. People set them all up differently. And then there is an old rhythm and routine because I do struggle with that. And you can see I've got got fill my water cup up there. But like I said, on my habits and activities, I added a second activity to drink the said water cup. And then the one over on the right is the weekly major three self-love reminders. So again, that permission to change up kind of how you're framing this space out. And then our to-dos can be directly informed by those goals that we set. Wanted to throw this little, this is from last year. So this is March that looks a little bit different, but, or maybe a couple of years ago. I don't know. But this is how they use that little calendar in the upper left-hand corner of the journal. And perhaps this is something so at a glance, you're able to see something significant about that day. Just wanted to show you that in case that was something that caught your eye. We like to shout out to the Pomodoro technique for tackling tasks, the things that you're working on. This is a really great way to kind of set up this timer. I work really well. I have some motivation if I'm trying to beat the clock. But you set up these work sessions that look like, one Pomodoro is 25 minutes of work plus a 5-minute break. So you see those four tomatoes. It's tomato because it was inspired by the tomato timer. Tomato is Pomodoro in Italian. So those four tomatoes represent 2 hours. And then after 2 hours, you give yourself a 20-minute break and then back to the Pomodoro where you do, these sessions where you put in these breaks to kind of break that monotony up of doing your tasks. So this can be really helpful, like if you're spending the day in the garage, do a Pomodoro, and that can maybe help you stay focused with that. And then additionally, we like to always shout out the Eisenhower matrix. And let me know if you've ever tried the Eisenhower matrix. A lot of folks, when I put this up, I said, drop in the chat if you've ever done it. And a lot of people hadn't tried it. That's okay. But if you have tried it, did you find it effective to sort of prioritize your urgent and important things, and did it help you sort things out? I tend to go to the really easy things instead of the urgent and important things. But I also love like this repurposed Eisenhower matrix over there on the right. Instead of delete, they've created like this donate. And so it looks like, this was maybe involving a move. And so their do is they're packing stuff and they're trying to decide on some stuff. Like, do I move the futon and sofa bed or do I keep it? And then they change delete to the donate. Like, what are we getting rid of? And also that delete box is really good for distractions. So maybe you have your to-do list, you plug things in, and then you fill your distractions in to the delete box. What are the things that get in the way of you doing those urgent and important things? All righty. Here are some more to-do lists, how folks just break that out to work in their life. And let's see. Yeah, and then some repurpose ideas. So bingo board here, a to-do list, a to-don't list. Maybe if you had a lot of things in, what do you want to start, stop, and continue? If your start box or your stop box is really full, maybe you to don't and you put up some boundaries there. It really is about taking what you need. So let me put on some music while you work on this. I'll go back through all these slides and then we'll drop down to those habits and activities. Thank you, Maya, for dropping that link to the Eisenhower Matrix. Some more information if you've never tried it and you're a little interested in learning a little more about it. So let's drop down to that bottom space on this page, our habit and activities. Maya coined a brand new word, gosh, a year ago, anyway, habities, those habits and activities that affect your week, what you want for the week. And we always say, we've got this big habit tracker at the front end of the month that we set up. And those tend to be the things we want to do most days of the month. So this tracker can have the same things, you're sharing, you can put the same things that's on the monthly tracker, on this weekly tracker, kind of have a double dip, a double accountability, double scoop of accountability. But you can also just change this up for whatever the week's bringing you. Maybe you have, um, you know, uh, something at work that's going to happen on Tuesday and Thursday. And so you put that in that activity area and you could circle Tuesday and Thursday to draw your mind's eye to that. So it can be a little different. So here are some examples from y'all. And you can set goals for this space, but you don't have to. You can just track. It's really what your motivation is. It shouldn't be here to say, no, 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 you didn't do it. But if a goal number helps you, I tend to not put goals. I just tend to track. The evidence is there and it shows me that. Also, a call out to the fact that habits take a bit to form, and depending on the intensity of the habit. How complex is it? It could be minimum 3 to 4 weeks, all the way up to 8 months, depending, like if it's a tough, tough habit that you're trying to break or start, give yourself that time. That thing should show up from week to week to week to week as you are getting it, wired into your brain. Here are some more examples. Just that reminder, all the lines don't have to be filled in. Like you see this bottom middle one. You can just track with like colors, like you see the little stickers over there on the upper right. And you can gamify it and do something like you see on the left there where it's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 for the things that you want to do. So really it's about up to you how you set this up. Maybe something from the week goes in this space, something kind of fun that you embrace. Let's put on a little bit of music. Share what you're going to be tracking this week. Drop that in the yeah, pound cake day. Yes, drop that in the chat because something you're doing may inspire someone else. All right, good job setting up those habits and activities. And again, that reminder from week to week, they may be the very same thing because you're really working on getting them hardwired into your life. So we're going to hop over now to this next page that we're going to set up. And again, invited to use that page exactly as it's printed. But we do have a lot of ideas of how folks have repurposed or just set the space up to work for them. So here's several repurpose ideas. And I have these two slides of dinner plans. One of them is the top one is the mind body health plan space repurposed, and the bottom one is the shopping list repurposed. And I did that because this person saved that meal planner for something else, and they decided to repurpose using kind of their main meal of the day to make their plans there. So wanted to, kind of share that. Like if you're welcome to fill that whole menu plan out, but you might want to save that for something else like your priorities of the day, looking at your week at a glance. Maybe you write your affirmations here, clothing plan, or packing list. If you repurpose this space, drop that in the chat right now. Like what goes into that meal plan space. You saw mine. I did my chores. I have just one big chore on each day of the week. And I'm not going to use the days. It's just like when the chore happens, the chore happens. So drop that in the chat, how you use that. And then we'll take a look at some examples of the mind body health plan. Maybe you put your meals, your main meals there. But you can see a lot of folks have set this space up to kind of meet meet I always say this is like my self-care space. So it's how I take care of me, my selfish spot. We always love to remind you that the checking in with your feelings, like the one you see in the upper right, how do I feel? And what is that telling me I need? And that's a great morning check in or a midday check-in or even an evening check-in. And I said the other day, you could actually use this whole page for how am I feeling and what do I need? And then you could use three different spaces and check in with yourself throughout the day if that's something that you need to focus on. Little quick journal prompts like you see in the bottom left there. I love that someone is calling their mind body health space their self care corner. And then the one at the bottom right, all those beautiful R words: release, rejoice, revive, resist, rebuild. Thought that was kind of fun. This one is, this is pot calling the kettle black. I've been just feeling a little overwhelmed with lots of bad news of the day. And so this is an Instagram account I follow, and I can't remember which one it is. And I should have put that on there, but like a tiny brave step. Search for one thing today that reminds you of the best of humanity and hold on to it and share it, treasure it, and return to it when you need encouragement. And so creating a space in your journal to find that one thing, to find that highlight of your day or your glimmer can do so much for your self-care and your mindset, that mental wellness. Here's a self-care for spring divided up into routines, your quiet time, creative time, social, physical, and spiritual. So you might be inspired by some of the things that are on those graphics. And I'll go back through these while we're working on this page so you can either grab a screenshot or remember that we are recording. And so this will be on the Silk and Sonder YouTube channel. I've got lots of graphics for you that could be placed into any of the spaces on this page. Someone at a monthly setup was wanting more information about the 7 types of rest. So here's a graphic from the Silk and Sonder Instagram with some suggestions, and then how somebody was going to embrace each type of rest. But sometimes we find perhaps, in the hubbub of the day, we are emotionally tired. And so we need to do lots of things to just address that one particular area. Or maybe you haven't created time in your day to day to find moments to be creative. So perhaps you schedule that. Somebody mentioned they were doing that this week. I forgot who now, but they're going to make sure that they have scheduled in creative time. That is that type of rest that they are focusing on. Yes, Carly, thank you. Um, then let's look at the shopping list. This can be a doodle space. We love a bingo, a weekly bingo. I put a bingo in mine of just tasks and little things I need to do. Someone else is using it for their AM and PM routine. The one on the upper right, that's their evening routine. If you have a birthday or you're celebrating someone in your life, a birthday bingo is so much fun to do. So I suggest that if we have any birthday folks this week, drop that in the chat so we can give you a shout out. And then this is from the Sleep Foundation, and it's about daylight saving time sleep tips. So I thought you might find it helpful because if we can kind of ease into losing that hour by taking these next 6, 7 days to do so, avoiding alcohol before bed. How does this play out in your setup? A consistent sleep routine. If you have that nighttime and you set it back by 10 minutes every night backward, that will help you ease into, by the end of the week, that's the hour, right? You've kind of trained you're slowly training yourself for that new rhythm. Spend time outside so that your body can get exposed to that sunlight, and then your brain knows darkness is shut down time. Nap in moderation, and of course, the old don't consume caffeine too close to bedtime. So I hope that that will maybe help you think about some things that you could do this week so that next Sunday when we wake up, we're not so exhausted. This is a wellness at work challenge. However, lots of good content on here, whether you're working in an office with people or if you're at home virtually, or perhaps you're, retirement, but I can still, do a joy of giving challenge or grow a plant or give myself a surprise day off. So I was thinking some of these could inspire one of these spaces on the page, or maybe you go grab your work buds and say, let's do a challenge this week. And you do one thing for each day. There is a spring cleaning challenge. Here's spring is almost here. We've been wintering. Time to kind of wake up and start blooming. And then I love a photo challenge of the day. I do the 1 second every day app where I just post one little picture from the day. Bailey is the first one that I ever saw use that, our facilitator Bailey, and I've been doing it for a couple days, and it's a way to seek those glimmers of the day. And when you have a little challenge, then you have something to actually look for. So that might be something that speaks to you, or maybe you put it on that calendar. I think it's the one that's at the front of the journal. Is it page 3? Yep, yep, yep. Hey, no, page 5. So, this calendar, let me get my face closer to it. Well, it's not one, but anyway, this calendar might be a really good place to do something like a photo of the day or your spring cleaning. Um, Here is our book friendly March bingo, since it's Read Across America, and some inspiration for that. Or maybe you go light with just 5 books and you read a book that has a green cover, and you find a book that's set in Ireland. So love that if you're a reader and you want to grab that. Debbie, you know what? It's a graphic that I grabbed online, that cleaning chart. But I'll go back through this and you can click it. Or if you do a Google search, a lot of times stuff like that will come up. So I'll go back to that so you can maybe grab that screenshot and then plug that in. And whoops, and then we've got spring self-care. Look at that happy little bumblebee there. But just some small ways of self-care could go in any of the spaces on this page. Also, how to fill your own cup. Make sure you're doing that. And then this was on the Silk and Sonder Instagram page. I think it was today, maybe yesterday. Maybe I don't know. But whenever I saw it, I snagged it so we could put it in our presentation tonight. But if you're following Silk and Sonder on Instagram, you can grab that. Yeah, it's a good one. I mean, March 9th. Ask for what you want without over explaining. Like, just ask for it. That's a good thing. Prioritize rest on the 6th. So lots of good stuff. So I'm going to stop talking, put on some music, go back through all these slides and let us know, what you're going to be putting in these spaces. And then we'll close out our time together. I am very excited for this first full week of March, welcoming in a new season, and I'm proud of all of us for showing up tonight and hanging out and supporting one another in such a beautiful way. Thank you, Sonder family, for joining us tonight, or this evening, afternoon. Share your setup in Sonder Club. We would love to see it. And then I want to make sure that you are aware of the Women's Month 2026 celebration, which will be on March 11th. And so we've got Maya. She's going to drop a lot of links in the chat right now. She just dropped the exclusive link. She'll share the YouTube channel as well as some other miscellaneous links. But we are really, really glad that you took time to hang out with us tonight. So thank you from me and from Maya. If you've watched this as a repeat on YouTube channel, we missed you, and we hope that we can see you live in person at the next weekly setup.